Okay, but guess what happens now in Ephesus? Verse 23 through 27. About that time, serious trouble was stirred up concerning the way. And it all started because of a silversmith named Demetrius, who made silver model shrines of Artemis. He was creating a brisk business trade environment for workers of the silver craft trade. He gathered together all these workers of similar craft occupations, and he said, friends, you know our prosperity comes from this work. Now you see and hear that not only in Ephesus, but also throughout almost all of Asia, this Paul has persuaded and turned away considerable number of people, claiming that gods made with human hands are not gods. Not only is there real danger that this trade of ours will be discredited, but also the temple of the great goddess Artemis will be regarded as worthless, and that she will be dethroned from her majesty, the goddess whom everyone in Asia and the world now worships. My goodness. I can't help, but I can say this because I was one, and that is a Catholic. And oh my goodness, we would have all these little crosses, medallions, scapulars. I wore a scapular. I don't know how many of you know what a scapular is. But oh my goodness, we always thought, we were protected by these things, and they almost get to be worshipped. But anyway, look at this. Here's another awesome connection. Here we are back in Acts. Look at what happens now. Here, Demetrius is in the midst of this big Colosseum, and all these thousands of people are there. And in Acts 19:33 through 36, some of the people crowded around Alexander, since some of the Jewish people there had pushed him forward. There's this poor guy named Alexander. All the Jews are pushing him forward to confront the crowd who's yelling about for 2 hours, basically, great is Artemis. Anyone know who Alexander is? I'm going to tell you. It's quite exciting, but let me finish the story. Okay. Motioning with his hand for quiet, Alexander wanted to make a defense before the crowd, but as soon as they recognized that he was Jewish, a shout in unison arose as they all shouted for how long? 2 hours. Great is Artemis of the Ephesians. Finally, after quieting the crowd, the town clerk said, people of Ephesus, after all, is there anyone who does not know that the city of the Ephesians is the guardian of the temple of the great Artemis and of the statue that fell down from heaven? Since these facts are undeniable, you should keep calm and not do anything rash. Well, guess what? Do you remember Simon of Cyrene who carried the Lord's cross? Alexander was one of his kids. And he came from Ephesus. They were traveling down for that Passover. Look right here, Mark 15:21. And they made one Simon of Cyrene, the father of Alexander and Rufus, who were going by, coming from the country, going with them that he might take his cross. Well, look at Romans 16:13. Salute Rufus, chosen in the Lord. Alexander and Rufus, the two kids that followed their dad carrying the cross, got saved and became strong believers. Isn't that cool? But look how Acts 19 closes. They're all yelling for 2 hours, great is Artemis. It says, as it is, this is the town clerk speaking, we are in danger of being accused of an insurrection in connection with today's events. Since there's no cause, we will be able to give for this riot. And after saying this, he broke up and dismissed the crowd. Well, guess what? In King James, it says they dismissed the assembly. Well, guess what? The Hebrew or the Greek word is the ecclesia, the ecclesia. What? Then they dismissed the church. Well, we can't put church in, so we're going to put down what it really is, an assembly. Because the word ecclesia doesn't mean and never meant church. How many of you heard of the Pentateuch? That was written 200 years before Christ came, and all through it is the word ecclesia. It meant assembly, and it was talking about the assembly of Israel. But because they wanted to create a distinction between the church and the synagogue, how many of you know words can take on different meaning? Remember the Bible, it talks about those in gay apparel. That means something different now. Okay? Well, guess what? They changed the meaning of ecclesia to church. But it never meant church. It meant an assembly. Synagogue is the Greek word for what? Synagogue. But guess what? Synagogue Synagogue and ecclesia were synonyms. They both meant assembly. But guess what the English translators did? How many believe the media is biased? So were the translators. What they did, they translated ecclesia as church everywhere, but when it came to here, oops, we need to put down what it really means, assembly, because we don't want people to think the church are the ones worshiping Diana. Well, guess what? In the book of James, which isn't even James, it's really Jacob, okay, it talks about if one comes into your assembly with a gold ring, rich apparel, don't prefer them, you're all familiar with that verse, guess what? The word is synagogue there, but oh my goodness, we don't want people to know they're meeting in the synagogue, so we're going to translate it as assembly. But it's really synagogue. Well, guess what happens? In Revelation, where it talks about the synagogue of Satan, the word is synagogue. How come they don't translate as assembly of Satan? Oh, because now we want to equate the synagogue to Satan. So in English, I'm telling you, even in King James, there are a lot of bias. And there are, I hate to tell you King James only people, intentional mistranslations. And I can show you them if anyone emails me where all the intentional mistranslations are.